Number 10. The brain's shortcut. Problem. Picture this. You're at a party. Everyone laughs at a joke that isn't funny, and you laugh too because the silence of not laughing would feel unbearable. What just happened in your brain? It took a shortcut. Humans love shortcuts, not just in traffic or cooking, but in thought. Psychologists call these heuristics mental quick fixes. Normally, heuristics are lifesavers. They help us make snap decisions without wasting brain power on every tiny choice. For example, if you see dark clouds, your brain doesn't need a weather forecast, you grab an umbrella. Efficient, right? But when you're in a group, heuristics get hijacked. The crowd becomes your shortcut signal. Instead of asking, "Is this true?" your brain asks, "Are they all agreeing?" And if the answer is yes, you follow along even if deep down something feels off. Research shows this isn't weakness, it's survival wiring. Early humans literally depended on tribes to stay alive. Questioning the group could mean being abandoned or ignored, which in prehistoric times was basically a death sentence. Better to laugh at the bad joke than risk social exile. So the next time you follow the crowd, even when it's wrong, remember you're not spineless. You're just running on ancient brain software that values belonging more than accuracy. Number 9. Fear of standing out. Here's a nightmare scenario. You're the only person in a movie theater who notices smoke. You stand up, ready to shout fire, but everyone else stays calm. Suddenly you feel ridiculous. Maybe you sit back down. This is the fear of standing out. Psychologists call it pluralistic ignorance. It's when everyone privately senses something is wrong, but nobody acts because they're all waiting for someone else. In the meantime, silence becomes the signal that everything's fine. Classic experiments prove this. In one study, researchers pumped smoke into a room where participants sat filling out forms. If people were alone, they almost always reported the smoke. But in groups, most just coughed, waved it away, and kept writing, even as the room filled with haze. Why? Because the group wasn't reacting and no one wanted to look like the paranoid idiot. It sounds absurd, but the instinct makes sense. Standing out socially feels dangerous. Our minds treat embarrassment almost like a physical threat. That's why people would rather risk danger than risk looking foolish. This is the cruel irony of group behavior. Sometimes everyone stays silent, not because they're confident, but because they're scared of being the only one to speak. Number 8. The power of social proof. Ever walked past a restaurant with an empty dining room and thought, probably not good? Then you see another one packed with people, and suddenly it looks delicious even if you know nothing about the menu. That's social proof at work. Humans are wired to treat other people's choices as evidence. If the crowd thinks something's valuable, safe, or correct, our brains assume it must be. This shortcut makes sense in everyday life. If a group is running away, screaming, "Odds are you should too." If everyone's gathered around a street musician, chances are they're actually talented. But social proof also explains why nonsense ideas spread like wildfire. Think of internet challenges that are obviously dangerous, like eating laundry pods. Yes, that was a thing. Did participants really believe it was a good idea? Not really. They saw views, likes, and shares piling up. The proof was in the crowd's engagement, not in the logic. What's tricky is that social proof can override your senses. You may know the joke isn't funny, the rumor isn't true, or the behavior is reckless. But if enough people signal approval, your brain feels safer joining in than resisting. In other words, social proof is the invisible hand pushing you to nod along even when you know better. Number 7. Authority by numbers. Imagine sitting in a classroom. The teacher asks a question and you know the right answer. But when 5 other students confidently give the wrong one, your certainty crumbles. You might even change your answer. This isn't just insecurity, it's the brain equating numbers with authority. If many people claim something, it feels weightier than a single opinion, even if the majority is wrong. The famous Asch conformity experiments prove it. Participants were asked to compare line lengths, an easy task. But when everyone else in the group who were actors deliberately chose the wrong line, most real participants followed along. They doubted their own eyes. Why does this happen? Numbers create a false sense of expertise. 10 voices saying the wrong thing sound louder and more convincing than one voice saying the right thing. On a primal level, your brain whispers, "Can all these people really be wrong? Maybe it's you." That's the danger of authority by numbers. Sometimes the crowd's confidence becomes more persuasive than your own certainty. Number 6. The comfort of safety in numbers. Imagine being alone on a dark street at midnight. Every sound, footsteps, a rustling bush, even your own heartbeat feels like a threat. But walk the same street with a group, and suddenly you relax. The street didn't change, you did. This is the safety in numbers instinct, and it runs deep. Evolution trained us to believe groups mean protection. More eyes, more ears, more bodies ready to defend. In prehistoric times, sticking with the crowd meant you had a better shot at surviving predators or rival tribes. But here's the twist, that same instinct now makes us over-rely on groups even when it's dangerous. Think of a concert where the crowd panics and surges. People follow blindly, trusting the group even though the crush itself is the real danger. Or think of investing where people pour money into bubbles just because everyone else is. The herd feels safer until it's not. The comfort of numbers blinds us. Instead of asking, "Is this choice actually safe?" we ask, "Am I with the group?" And as long as the answer is yes, we feel secure, even when security is the last thing we really have. Number 5. The fear of rejection. Few things sting as sharply as rejection. A text left unseen, an invitation ignored. Even small dismissals can hurt. That's because to your brain, rejection isn't just emotional, it feels like physical pain. Studies using brain scans show that social rejection lights up the same regions as physical injury, which means that being left out literally hurts. So when you're in a group, your mind is constantly calculating, do I risk rejection if I disagree? Most of the time, the safer bet feels like silence, or worse, agreement. This is why people laugh at jokes they hate, nod at ideas they don't support, and stay quiet when something feels wrong. The cost of rejection feels heavier than the cost of dishonesty. It's why cults thrive, why peer pressure works, and why movements spread even when they're harmful. Your brain is protecting you from the sting of being cast out. But ironically, in protecting you socially, it may push you into decisions you'd never make on your own. Number 4. The illusion of consensus. Picture scrolling through social media and seeing post after post praising something you secretly think is dumb. After the 10th post, you start to wonder, am I the weird one here? This is the illusion of consensus, sometimes called the false consensus effect. It tricks us into believing that whatever we see most often must reflect what most people think. In reality, it could just be a vocal minority or even bots amplifying a message. The human brain craves certainty. Consensus feels like truth because it simplifies the chaos of conflicting opinions. Instead of analyzing every detail, your brain takes the shortcut. If everyone else believes it, it's probably right, it's faster, easier, and less stressful than being the lone skeptic. The danger, illusions of consensus create echo chambers. In groups, we may nod along to an idea, not because we agree, but because we assume everyone else does. And when everyone does that, silence transforms into agreement, even if nobody truly believes it. So sometimes the crowd isn't united at all. It's just everyone pretending not to be the odd one out. Number 3. The risk of social punishment. Imagine a medieval village square. Someone questions the king out loud. Even if they're right, the crowd gasps. Whispers ripple. How dare they? A few moments later, the punishment begins. That person has become a warning for everyone else. Fast forward to today, the gallows are gone, but social punishment is still alive. From being mocked in group chats to being canceled online, stepping out of line invites consequences. Your brain knows this, and it whispers, better keep quiet. Anthropologists argue this fear is baked into our species. For most of history, survival wasn't just about hunting or gathering, it was about reputation. Lose your place in the group, and you lost your access to food protection and community. In other words, speaking out could cost you everything. This fear lingers. Even if punishment today is just ridicule, embarrassment, or isolation, it feels heavy enough to silence us. And so we follow the crowd not because we believe it, but because the cost of resistance feels too high. Number 2, the comfort of shared delusion. Think of mass hysteria cases throughout history, whole towns convinced they were cursed villages panicking about witches, or entire crowds swearing they saw the Virgin Mary appear in the sky. Were they all lying? Not really. They were swept up in a shared delusion. The strange thing about the human brain is that reality feels more real when it's confirmed by others. If everyone around you insists they see or hear something, your brain starts filling in the gaps, sometimes literally creating false perceptions. Psychologists call this collective misperception. Shared delusions can be comforting. If everyone's wrong together, then no one feels alone. There's a strange safety in being together in the lie. The individual fear of being wrong dissolves when the whole group shares it. That's why mass panics, conspiracy theories, and cults can feel so powerful. They transform private doubts into public confidence. It's not that people stop thinking, it's that they start thinking together, even if together means being wrong. Number 1, the ancient need to belong. At the very core, people follow the crowd for one reason: belonging. Humans aren't built for solitude. Our ancestors didn't survive because they were the fastest or strongest, they survived because they stuck together. Belonging is more than a social preference, it's a survival code. The tribe offered food protection and continuity. To be cut off meant almost certain death. And though modern life no longer demands campfires and spears, the brain hasn't updated its software. Being excluded still feels like annihilation. That's why following the crowd, even when it's wrong, feels safer than going alone. Your brain doesn't measure truth, it measures connection. The applause of the crowd, the nods of agreement, the silent approval, it all signals safety. And safety has always mattered more to survival than accuracy. So, when you laugh at the unfunny joke, stay silent in the smoky room, or nod at an opinion you don't share, remember your brain is ancient. It still believes that belonging is life, and isolation is death. That's it for today. I'll be doing similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.